All right, my friends, welcome. Happy Merry Christmas Eve to everyone. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. This is a pre-recorded video. It is Christmas Eve, so I also want to spend time with people. So I figured I'd keep it really light, really fun. A lot of you guys were asking if I did watch Paris and Nicole's The Encore. The obvious answer is yes. It's been 20 years since The Simple Life debuted. It is completely pioneered the way we watch reality television, and I was so excited to see these two back on screen. So I'm going to do a recap. There was 3 episodes. It is streaming right now on Peacock. Do yourselves a favor and go watch. It's very light, very fun. So many little guest appearances and so many fun memories. So without further ado, let's jump right into this recap for Paris and Nicole, the Encore. I even gave the intro song a bit of an opera flair.
We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Georgio Says podcast. We need to talk about this. Tune in, don't miss our beat. Georgio's got the stories you need. We need to talk about this. Every rumor, every twist on the Georgio Says podcast.
All right, so let's jump right in. There was 3 episodes, as I mentioned. They didn't really utilize the same production company as the original, but in the first episode, we do get these two sitting down with the original production team that filmed season 1 of The Simple Life. So let's dive right in to episode 1.
Do you love it?
Of course, I had to add the Sanasa. Yeah, so we have Paris and Nicole. They are back together and they are sitting down with the production team that filmed with them the first season, and everyone is reminiscing over all of the memories, what it was like. Paris and Nicole had no idea what they were doing. They were so young still. They were just doing it as something fun. They had no details. And they end up getting dropped off in this middle of nowhere town, which we'll never, forget. If you know, if you watched, Altus, Arkansas will forever be ingrained in all of our hearts. So many memories from that season of them being there. And so the production team is just really excited that the girls are back together, and the girls are explaining what they're up to, what their plans are for this little reunion. And it was really fun because they did kind of give us this nostalgic throwback to what the original concept of the show was, which was like very, I don't want to say satire, but it was very much more playful, and it wasn't drama filled. Like, it was almost like you were watching a comedy reality, but no one knew what they were doing. So it was even more funny because they caught so many iconic moments and sound bites. But nonetheless, so they are explaining to the production team that yes, they're going to visit the family that they stayed with when they filmed season 1, if you guys remember, the Lettings. However, unfortunately, the Lettings, for whatever reason, did not want to be filmed meeting with Paris and Nicole. So Paris and Nicole did that off camera. So we didn't get to see that reunion. And I was a little bummed, to be honest, but I also understand that this family is probably super private and they don't want all of that coming back into their, private lives, because it's been 20 years. So, but they also tell the production team that they plan on turning their iconic hit song that they sang throughout the entire series and pretty much introduced us to it was Sanasa, Sanasa. So they're going to turn it into an opera, or so they want to do, utilizing the song and also crafting it around their friendship. Because if you know, during that period, there were some weird moments as the seasons of Simple Life went on. So they kind of touch on this, but not in too much detail, but it does get incorporated into the final opera, which was really exciting to see. So they, after meeting with the Lettings off camera, they go and meet with Veronica Post, who was the mayor of Altus. And if you remember back then, they had a lot of funny scenes with her, and they had to do all these odd end jobs. And so it was funny to see her now, but unfortunately, she had an accident when she was doing some zip lining. And so Paris and Nicole end up bringing her all these like fun little gifts and whatnot. And then they go to this bar, if you remember the bar, that was where Nicole got really drunk and she made out with this kid. He wasn't a kid, but he was like a young guy. And she ended up dumping a bunch of like bleach all over the pool table because she thought someone stole her purse, and she kept screaming, where's my purse? And like Paris is running around chasing her through this bar with Nicole holding a big bottle of bleach, and she's just tossing it all over this like pool table. But Danny, their old boss, he was really sweet. He was like really emotional seeing them again because obviously he loved having them, and it was probably really a memorable experience for him, clearly because he still remembers every bit of it. Um and so they decide to create this opera, like I said, and it's based on their journey, it's based on their friendship. And now they have to figure out what's next. How do they get this, opera for Sanasa started and, visualized and make it a reality? So who better than to go consult with than Kathy Hilton herself? Yes, and she's energized about this idea. She loves every bit of it. She's giving them all the ideas. She's telling them who they need to put into the show. She's just being Kathy Hilton. And these are the moments why we love Kathy Hilton and why I'm glad she's back on our TV screens, because she does give us this splash of like humor. And it's clear that Nicole is used to this from Kathy. So the chemistry between the three of them is just like old times. And it, again, felt very nostalgic, like almost like a homecoming. Oh, the bar's name was Alligator Rays, just for reference. But yes, so they leave Altus energized with this idea. They've talked to Kathy. Now they've got to try to bring this vision to life. So now we get into episode 2.
Do you love it?
So the two ladies are back in California. They're excited to get this opera production started, but it's not really that simple when you start digging into how putting an opera together actually goes. So they end up struggling to find people like a composer or someone who can actually help them that has experience in the opera world. And so they start with trying to audition a composer. So I don't want to butcher his name, but it's Thomas Adies. An award-winning composer declines their pitch for obvious reasons, despite their hilarious operatic attempt to win him over, because they are literally trying to just sway him. They're not taking no for an answer. They know they need a good composer to pull this off. He's absolutely not going to put his name on the line for this because it sounds like it could be a disaster. So then they go to the music store, and at Castle's music shop, the two of them, they sing their Sanasa song on various instruments, and then they meet up with the store owner, Ed, and they end up casting him for this opera that they still have not really figured out how they're going to pull together, but they know that Ed needs to be in it. So then they go to Hilton Marketing because now they need an investment, right? They need about $1 million to pull this whole thing off. So they're going through their connections. Paris is like, oh, well, let's talk to Hilton Marketing. This could work. They could loan us the money and we can pull this whole thing off. Easy breezy, right? Not so much. So we have this scene that clearly is obviously staged. I don't believe that they really held a meeting with, Hilton Marketing to try to get them to give them $1 million. This was obviously produced for the show, but that's part of the fun of watching this show, is that you know that everyone's in on it and it makes it more fun. So they are doing this pitch and it's awful. They bring Ed in and it's a disaster, and it's clear they're not going to get the $1 million. Okay. Shocking. Okay. So in order to create buzz for this opera, Paris and Nicole then go to, this is super iconic, you guys. They go back to Sonic, where they originally filmed in The Simple Life, and they go back with Danny Pellegrino, and they have this amazing moment where they go in and they're all working like they did originally, and it's just so cool and memorable, because if you watched the original, you know how iconic that Sonic episode was, because they were an absolute disaster. And so they kind of do this little reuniting. They bring Danny Pellegrino, which, by the way, was the perfect pick for doing this with them, because he has worked with both of them and had Nicole on his podcast, so they already have a natural relationship. So really cool to see him there with, you know, Paris and Nicole working at Sonic, working the drive-through, singing Sanasa. And then from there, we get Paris and Nicole going on a city tour bus in Los Angeles, and they bring along Kesha, which I don't know if a lot of you know, which they do talk about this in the Encore, but Kesha was actually one of the families Paris and Nicole stayed in. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was season 2. And their task at one point was to get Kesha's mom a date. And then we find out when these girls are all on the tour bus and they're giving their own little tour to this group of people who they then invite to their opera, which they have not really solidified yet, but they know it's happening. It's called delusional manifesting. Nonetheless, Kesha says that in real time, after her mom met the guy that Paris and Nicole set up for her, he ended up being gay. But it's crazy because Kesha is now this full-blown music star and has gone through her own evolution and journey. And here she is back with Paris and Nicole, when back then no one knew who Kesha was. She was just the daughter of one of the families that they were staying with. So it was super, super, super cool to see that. And, you know, but now things have got to get serious. They've hijacked the bus. They've got guests. They've got some people in the mix. Now they've got to get things going so that they can have their opening night and their Sanasapera. So let's get into episode 3.
Do you love it?
So we are in the final episode, and in a Simple Life fashion, they did keep these episodes to about 30-35 minutes. And because it's pretty short and sweet, and the original was pretty short and sweet. So I'm glad that they didn't tamper with the timing of it too much, like dragging it out too long. But we're in the final episode, and the pressure is mounting for these two to pull this opera off, because they've found the right cast to pull the story off. It's basically the story of their friendship, Paris and Nicole as little girls, then getting into fame, then doing the show, and how the media pulls them apart, and then they come back together. So now they just need to pull it together and make it look really good, because these two women are now entrepreneurs. They can't just put their name on something sloppy. So there are some final last minute pressures. Plus, it's a really short time to pull off an opera. I think they only did like within 3 weeks time. And I think it's at minimum takes about a year of planning. So they have the rehearsal chaos. They're not happy with the subpar visuals they're seeing. So they have to jump in and get their hands dirty and start getting in the kitchen and reworking some of the ingredients, because it's not working thus far. And so they slowly but surely start to polish things off. They resolve some of the other issues, and any other last minute production opportunities they were able to thankfully fix. Now they just need to build the hype. So the whole thing in the streets of LA with Kesha was spreading the word, obviously getting the people on the tour bus to, I guess they didn't really have a choice. Uh, but they were also invited to attend this opera. There's tons of people coming to this thing, and they've been talking about it. So people are already not taking this seriously, so they have to pull it off. And despite there being some minor setbacks, there was some road work going on outside of the theater where they were going to have their opera. And unfortunately, the road work led to, I guess they opened up a fire hydrant. There was a lot of water, and they were planning on doing their red carpet and step and repeat right in front of this theater where all this road work was going on. But luckily, Paris and Nicole flirted their way to the construction worker in charge to ask, when will this all be cleaned up? And if they could, in fact, keep their red carpet and step and repeat for tomorrow night's opera event. And the gentleman reassured them that this would all be taken care of by then because it's just a simple little fix they're making. And then by the night's end, everything will be right back to normal. So they'll be good to go. And in doing so, Paris and Nicole extended an invite to the construction worker to attend their Sanasapera. Oh, how fun it must be for everyone who's invited to this. And I did know a couple of people. Timmy Hilton, shout out to him. He was there, and he's also a big Paris Hilton fan. And so it looked like a lot of fun. Also, my friend James, who I had on the podcast a couple weeks ago, he actually produced on this show as well, and said the whole thing was to film and was really excited to be a part of it. But they finally get to the show night. They finally pull this really amazing version of Sanasa, the opera, off. And the story's really cool. It looked like everyone enjoyed it. And I think they proved a lot of people wrong that thought that they weren't going to be able to pull this off. But the story's really cute. I love these two's friendship. I always have. I followed both of them in the pop culture sphere back in the early 2000s. I followed all the drama that ensued in the media between the two of them. And, I'm glad to see that they're back together because, they have been friends since they were children. So it's nice to see that they were able to salvage that. But there were some really cool themes and storytelling highlights that they added into this 3-episode series. There's a lot of full circle moments that I thought were really cool, from the Walmart shopping experience when the girls go back and they shop at Walmart and Paris is buying up her cookware and all the stuff, product lines that she has with Walmart. And then, you get to see them as moms and entrepreneurs and the growth from when they were super young doing this show to now. But it's still nice to know that they've retained the chemistry that they have. Their sense of humor is still, chef's kiss. And the chaos that those two bring to every camera is priceless. There's so much chaotic creativity and creative juices between these two that I think that it's a match made in heaven always. And I think they should continue to do things together because I think it works really well. And I think a lot of you who are fans of the show would agree. So why would you watch this? This is not a typical reunion. That's why it's not called a reunion. It's 3 episodes. And my friend James did tell me that based on how well it does and how much the fans cry out for more of this, there could be more in the works. So if you haven't watched Paris and Nicole, the Encore, you can do so because it is streaming on Peacock, all 3 episodes. Binge it. Like I said, it's 30 to 35 minutes per episode. You can knock it out in a good 90 to 95 minutes. It's light, it's funny, and best of all, we got what we wanted. Paris and Nicole back together 20 years later. All right, guys. So I know this is a shorter episode. I know it's a pre-record, but it is Christmas Eve. And with that, I do want to say thank you so much for supporting me in 2024 and being on this journey with me. And I hope that I continue to be able to support you guys back with giving you guys amazing content and getting better and better. Each day I go live or record a podcast or post a TikTok or Instagram. With that, happy holidays to everyone. If you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas to you and yours. Stay safe, stay warm. And as I close out, instead of the normal intro, outro, I decided I would create my own version of Sanasa, the opera. So I will leave you guys with that. And until the next episode, guys, I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.
So